Margaret Peruzzi. I was born in the city of Detroit, on the east side, incidentally, of the city of Detroit. And I belong to the patronage of St. Joseph. I went to school there for many years. My birth date, I am 95 years old, and I was born in May the 2nd, 1927, a long time ago. This church, my fondest memory about this church, the day my husband and I pulled up outside the church many years ago. It was January the 6th of 1950, because we had just moved to Lincoln Park, bought our home, and we were looking for a church and school for our children. And we pulled up here in front of Christ the Good Shepherd, and I thought, my goodness, it's kind of small, because the parking lot was bare. It was all gravel at the time. Now, you have to remember, this is 1950. The parish was only 3 years old. And I thought, my goodness, Albert, it's kind of small. So maybe we should, walk around and look at the church, see what it looks like. And when we got to the entrance, I saw the mosaic of the Good Shepherd above the door, the entrance door, and I saw that Jesus with the Good Shepherd with the lambs around him, and I said, oh, this is home. We're home, and this is where we'll come. And this is where our children will go to school. What has changed the most in our church? Well, nothing much. I mean, the parish has gotten smaller because it's been that many years. This is 2022. At the time when our children were going to school, the parish had 3,000 families, and that was a lot of people. And of course, we enjoyed it, though. The children loved going to the school here. They all participated in functions at the school, all of them. Martha was our organist and choir director of the children's choir. Carol, the next daughter, ran the nursery downstairs where the shepherd's room is now. That at that time it wasn't finished off. It was just a basement, and so Carol ran the nursery and took care of the babies when parents brought their babies in for the I think it was a 10 o'clock mass at that time. And people donated cribs, a couple of cribs and bassinets, and little tables with toys and books for Carol and her girls to read to the children and games to play. That was Carol. Christine helped out with preschool. We had a room in one of the school rooms that we had for preschool. Children about maybe 3, 4 years old, or 5. And they had children helping out, the ladies, Good Shepherd ladies, who were instructing the children. And Christine helped out with the preschool children. And let's see, after Christine was Gerard. Gerard was an altar boy, and he had a very good friend of his that he would go back and forth to school with, and it was chummy with as an altar boy. His name was David Fry. The two of them were good friends and altar boys together. And Gerard was a Boy Scout also. I think the troop from Good Shepherd, I think it was Troop 1381. I might be wrong about that, but I think it was 1381. And Mr. Strotzer, Roy Strotzer, was their leader. And of course, who came after Gerard? We had a little baby named Mary Rose. Mary Rose died the day she was born. She's in heaven. Then came along Margie, the youngest one. And of course, she went to Good Shepherd also. She took lessons from Martha, piano lessons, and she decided she didn't want to play piano or organ. She wanted to play the flute. So Gerard got a flute for her, his sister, and he gave her a flute for her birthday. And she was playing flute all through her young years. Martha was her teacher, and they played together for lots of occasions. They were musicians, and when Martha grew up and got married in 1971, so Martha was organist and choir director all through the years that she went to Good Shepherd School, and I have a picture of her. Let's see, here's Martha at the organ when she was in about maybe the 8th grade here at Good Shepherd. She was wearing a pillbox hat because those were the Kennedy years when Jacqueline Kennedy wore the pillbox hat. And that was her, and this was her engagement announcement, which was in the Mellis paper. She was married, Martha and Dan were married in 1971, and that was when she left our parish. And I have other pictures. This is Martha's graduation picture from the 8th grade at Good Shepherd. Here she is now. And here's Martha when she came home between masses on Sundays for a bite to eat, and she would go back to church to play another mass. Here's some other pictures I have. This is a picture of me with the school-age children of the RC, we called it the RCIC program, not the RCIA, which was for adults. This was for children of school age, and here's couple of my students. I had some from the age of maybe 7 up to the age maybe of, well, I'd say these were 15, 16 years old. And we would go to the, of course, for the rite of election, we went to the cathedral with our students every year. This is CCD classes. I taught the religious ed classes from perhaps about, remember the 1960s, anyways, in the early 1960s. But this is Sister Diane. At the end of the school year, she was giving out prizes to the teachers and the CCD children. They went up one class at a time and did their little skit at the end of the school year. So I have pictures of the different classes going up to the sanctuary and doing their thing.
What year was that?
It could have been when Sister Diane was the religious ed director, probably about 1975, 76, somewhere around there. Yes, one class after the next went up there. And mine, of course, my children from the RCIC program had their little skit. And here's a class of children with their little sign that says, "We will miss you," at the end of the school year. Okay. Oh, here's something that went on. I can't remember the year exactly. When Father Brucemeyer was our pastor, And we had started the garden outside, the memorial garden, and we had just gotten the statue of the Good Shepherd. I have a picture here of the Good Shepherd, and here, and the bishop, I forgot the bishop's name. He came for the dedication of the statue in the garden. And here the bishop is here. And there's Father Deacon Schwark and Father Bursmeyer, I think, is in there. And this is our little quartet we sang for the occasion. Jerry Gates, Lori Lambert, my friend Ruthie, and myself. And Linda's in the background. We sang a song at the dedication. And, oh, here's Father Bursmeyer. That was I think, after midnight mass when, yep, it says Father Dave at the Christmas midnight mass, 1992 or 93, one of the two. That's a nice picture of him. He's a very handsome young man. And, oh, this is our choir people. I told you I sang in the choir, of course, whatever choir we had. So there are a lot of choir members here. In fact, whoops, I'll put these over here. I had to take a lot of pictures because we did have about 25 people in the choir. Here's another picture of the choir members. There's another picture. I don't know how it is that I was the one who got to take the pictures of the choir that night. And here's a picture, oh, my daughter Margie was in the choir. And so I took a picture of her and one of our parishioners. Oh, what's her name? I'll bet you remember her. I can't. Oh, Kristen.
Oh,
Kristen LeClaire.
Well, national, yeah, okay, Kristen LeClaire, yeah.
Yeah, that's Kristen LeClaire. And she was in the choir at the time. And she's one of our lectors, of course. And, oh, this is our choir director at the time, Linda Fox, and her daughter, Meg. I thought that was a nice picture of them. Oh, and here's two of the same. They're identical, so I'll hold it up like this. This is I used to make the banners when children's liturgy first began. I don't know, I can't remember maybe about 1989 or 90, we began children's liturgy. And I was, one of the leaders. And I made all the banners for seasonal banners. This one was for Lent. It's purple. And can you see what it says? It says, glorify God, glorify God, glorify God with me. Let us praise God's holy name. Glorify God, glorify God, God's holy name. And the children would sing this. This was I think it was during Lent. Could have been, because it's purple. And for Advent, we had it wasn't purple, it was sort of a pink banner. And so on. And that's it. Well, that was about it. We did with children's liturgy, and I did the banners. I made all the banners. I taught the religious ed classes for many years, from about the early 1960s, and with our first it was with our first coordinator, who was Sister Kathleen, Sister Francine, Sister Geraldine, who worked in the office for us. And That's how far back I went teaching religious ed.
Now, you've been a cantor too,
Yes, a can. Oh, yes, I am a cantor.
but when did you start?
When Linda was our director, choir director, she asked for many, she asked for cantors, and so but then of course I was in the choir, so I volunteered to cantor. So I cantored different masses up until now, and well, incidentally, when my daughter Martha was the choir director, she had all men cantors. All the cantors were men, and that's the difference between then and now. We have mostly women, but and we have some men who are very good cantors. Martha had all men cantors, and the one who I remember because he came up to me and he says, "You must remember me. I'm Mr. Daniels." And I was one of your daughter's cantors. I think it was Rich Daniels' father. Rich Daniels is one of our lectors, very good lector. And I believe it was his dad who was a cantor for Martha when she was the director. Interesting memories. I have so many.
What's the first one that comes to your head?
Oh, I remember when I had one of the little ones that really stood out for me, now that you mention it. Father Goronsky was one of our assistant pastors, and I had the children lined up, the little children who were registered for RCIC, for baptism, confirmation, and Holy Eucharist. Some were receiving baptism and Holy Eucharist for the first time, and others perhaps were just confirmation, depending on their age and the sacraments that they had missed out on. I had about a dozen of the children lined up in the lobby, ready to come in for the rite of election. And Father Goronsky was out there in the lobby, and he saw that they were all lined up, so he said, "Oh, I'd like to ask a couple of questions out here to the little kids." And he went right up to this little boy, his name, and I'll never forget, his name was Johnny Pinson. And to this 7-year-old boy, he goes up to him and he said, bent down and asked him, he said, "Well, why do you want to be baptized?" And this little kid looked up at me and he looked up at Father and he says, "Because I want to be a disciple of Jesus." That was his answer. So I thought, good for you, good for you. And I told Father, that'll teach you a lesson, picking on little kids. So that was one of the nicest memories I had. When Vatican II was done in the 1960s, 62, this was when I decided that I would like to get more involved in my faith process. And so I decided I wanted to take the classes, wanted to teach. And I was told, well, you first, before you teach, you have to take classes. So I did take a number of classes through the Archdiocese, and I earned 26 credits. And then I was able to start teaching, and I came to Good Shepherd and asked Sister, that was when we had our first coordinator, Sister Kathleen, and she said, well, you have to take some, we have to test you. So I went, I met her at the school with some other ladies, and I remember definitely the first thing we did, she had a little map asking us, well, which way do you take to Good Shepherd, to school? And I said, well, I go down, I can go down LeBlanc to maybe Abbott and go to Michigan and turn down Howard and to Riverbank And one of the other ladies said, "No, that's wrong." And I said, so I said, "Well, what's your way to Good Shepherd?" And she, they lived in the same area, and she talked about her directions to the school. And then Sister, after we were done, Sister told us this little story. Everybody takes a different route to heaven. We all have our own route, and it doesn't matter which way you go, as long as you get there. That's the process. That's the main thing. And I'll never forget that. I thought that was cute. For the future of Good Shepherd, I would hope that the parish will keep growing, because from the time that I was here, like I said, from 1950, the parish began, I think, in 1947. That was the beginning. I would hope that it would continue to grow. So many of the people that I was involved with, that I have been involved with for so many years, have gone on to heaven. They're with Jesus now. And I would hope that we would get many more younger families in the parish. Keep it going. I can only say that it was a great pleasure being in this one parish all these years. That's a long time, from 1950 up until now, working with so many different people. And right after Vatican II, 1960, this is what really got me involved. I was involved after that. After when it was over, that was when I was involved with this class. Father Phelan was here at the time. No, it wasn't Father Phelan, it was another pastor. I can't remember his name. But I was involved with this class that was called Church World Kingdom Series, Father Phelan, yes. And I worked with him on that, and we had a lot of people in that program, working on that program. And we also had people from a different faith. Like, I remember one well is that St. Michael and all archangels, I think it's around Fort Park someplace. We invited them to our church. People, anyone who wanted to come, and we had meetings and talked about their faith and our faith. And I remember Father Solomon was here, and we were invited to go to the Dick's Methodist Church. I think it's on Horger, behind, around Southfield there. We went there and shared our thoughts and our differences and our similarities with them. And it was a pleasure, because I remember we were all standing in their sanctuary looking around, and one of the ladies remarked that, "Oh, there's the Apostles' Creed. It's just the same creed that we say." And a lot of things we spoke about were the same, and it was a nice time. And singing with their choirs. We invited their choir to our church, and we went to their churches and sang with their churches, with their choirs, with the one St. Michael and all archangels. I remember that we sang with their choir for a prayer service. And Father Bursmeyer was with us. He attended. And it was a pleasure to do that. One other thing I would like to say, one other thing, is when the children, the women of Good Shepherd, we must never forget them. Those ladies were miracle workers at their rummage sales. One of the ladies who worked so hard on those rummage sales years back, her name was Norma Zamalai. She was a very good friend of mine, and our children went to school together here. But you have to remember that to be we are really thankful for those ladies, the women of Good Shepherd. They do wonderful things, and we have to never forget the things that they do for us.